Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Bus. Bus is an older worker placement game from a company called Splotter Games that I played for the first time this past week. Here's a photo of it. And it's a worker placement game combined with a route building game, a subject that I talked about on last week's Sunday sit-down video. I won't go into all the details about how the game works. You can look those up online if you're interested. But one of the key things about the game that you need to understand my favorite mechanism is that you're building these routes and you're putting workers, or not workers, you're putting people on the board. I actually don't have any in this photo. So you're putting people on this board, and they will go to certain places throughout the game depending on like what time it is. So there's work. There's a restaurant like taverns that's represented by beer in the game. So they go out drinking, go to work, go out drinking, and then go home. So there's work, drinking, and then home. And the game goes through those cycles. So throughout the game, workers, or I keep calling them workers, the people in the game want to go to different places on the board representing those things. These slots that are empty right now, let's see if there are any that are full. Yeah, here's one right here that has a work token on it. So if you're building these routes and putting these people out here on the board so they can travel to kind of the next step of the time track. This little clock over here that got cut off on my printing a little bit. So you know that, okay, last round they went home, and so you know in this current round that you're planning for, that you're placing workers for, that all the people on the board are going to try to go to work. If they were at home before, they're going to work. But there's one action on the board, and you can see it here, kind of. There's one action slot that you can choose, and this is the worker placement part of the game. You can choose that slot to stop time. So instead of time moving forward, time will stop. And so there are a couple cool things going on with this action. One is the idea that you can choose to stop time in the game. So in a game where things are somewhat cyclical, that you can plan ahead, that you know what's going to happen next, that you can choose to say, no, I don't want that to happen next. I'm going to stop time. The penalty, when you actually activate that worker token, if you choose to stop time, is that you get one of these little beads here, which represents -1 victory point, which is a lot as it turns out. I think the winner of our game had maybe 11 points, 10 or 11 points. So losing 1 point is that's 10%. That's a lot of your points. But it can have a big impact on you because maybe that round you can end up gaining a lot of points. The other cool thing about this action, though, is when you activate that worker, you don't have to stop time. You're not required to actually use the action. And so throughout the game, people use this action quite a few times, but I think it was only activated once because a number of times players put a worker there. They used a whole worker, one of their key resources in the game, so that someone else wouldn't stop time, and also so that when we got to that step of the worker activation process, because you put all the workers down and then you activate them in a certain order, they had a lot more information at that point than they had earlier in the round when they chose to put a worker on the time action slot. So I like that they were able to gather that information and then decide, okay, am I actually going to stop time, or is it more beneficial for me at this point to let time proceed as normal? Along with that aspect of blocking and a little bit of bluffing. Whenever someone put a worker there, it added a little bit of tension to the table because we were wondering, okay, are they actually going to stop time? Should I risk mitigate a little bit just in case they do stop time, or if they don't? It created a really interesting element of the game, even though we still felt we had plenty of agency, which I think is the downside of a mechanism like this. If you suddenly feel like you don't have control over what's happening in the game because someone else can make a choice that you can't control. It reminded me a little bit of the time aspect of Tzolk'in, where once per game you can choose to move all of the workers on the board forward twice instead of just once. And I was trying to think of other games that do something like this, where you can actually manipulate time impacting all of the other players at the table sparingly, like not too often. This didn't. I think, as I said, I think it only happened once in this game. In Tzolk'in, you can only do it once per player in the game. I was trying to think of other examples of that, and I was wondering if you could think of any in the comments and want to mention them there, or if you have a different favorite mechanism in Bus other than the possibility of stopping time and manipulating how time works for all players. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as well. Thanks.